Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to a super exciting event as part of New Masters Academy's 10-year anniversary celebration. My name is Peter, and I am very honored to welcome these superstars that we have here as our panel. I want to give a huge welcome to these wonderful artists and instructors, Catherine Bobkoski, Marian Littlejohn, and Iliya Mirochnik. And these guys are here for the unveiling of our student gallery. So, this is all about celebrating you guys, the students, and all of your hard work and incredible progress at New Masters Academy. So across the coaching and the recorded courses, live classes, these are the guys who've been here with us across our artistic journeys. So thank you so much, guys, for being here. Really appreciate this. So today, we're going to be looking at all of your work and discussing it. We're going to have to go fast because there's a lot. So yeah, just thank you guys for being here. And I'll hand it over to you for a little introduction and we'll jump straight in.
Okay, so we're going to have to go through the slides quite quickly. So I don't know, do you want to... So the pace is going to be a little bit different from prom. So yeah, do you want to pop up the slides for us, Peter? We can get
Let's do
moving on. Yeah. Okay.
Did you take a longer time during prom? How long was prom?
2.5
hours.
We had 2 hours. We went 2.5, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to speed up because we were going too slow.
Yeah.
Okay, so look at this. A
Not
decade of art,
unfamiliar to me.
student exhibition. Isn't this beautiful?
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
First
Okay.
student.
Oh yeah.
All right,
Yes,
first
it's
student.
CAT, isn't it, that we usually see the student as, and they've made a phenomenal amount of progress, haven't they? This is really wonderful to see.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, everyone, the work on the left
Yes.
is original work that they've produced before they were at New Masters Academy. And then the work on the right is the progress that they've made to this point.
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
Beautiful work. I think the work on the right, the newer work, just shows such a growth and understanding and controlling value, and also, you know, it's a much more complex composition as well. And all those, you know, complex, difficult forms are just handled so skillfully. I think it's very impressive. So
Yeah.
great work, Kat.
And I think I've seen this student post so much work in so many different classes, and it just shows that, you know, that determination and perseverance really will yield fantastic results.
Yeah, this is really cool to compare, and we're going to be doing a lot of that here. But it's just like primarily the tonal complexity is just like, it's not even on the scale anymore. It's like above it. So awesome work.
Yeah.
Broke the scale.
Awesome,
Yep,
Kat.
right.
Okay, Alex.
Oh,
I gotta say, I can't tell which one's the early one and which one's the one that came after. This one's harder for me.
well, I know that Alex worked really hard on that plaster cast drawing and put a lot of effort into it. It was, I think, a huge learning experience. But you can tell in the results just how, you know, how much more skillful and subtle, and how much attention and observation was put into that drawing. I think it's really, really beautiful. So, you know, huge progression, a lot of learning. I know it was hard work because I was there, but great work, Alex.
Yeah, and it's the subtlety of the kind of line control as well that you're seeing there, isn't it? It's just really kind of getting those kind of soft edges so beautifully in that second piece.
I gotta say, I'm gonna be, you know, kind of a reactionary here a little bit, but like the stuff you have on the early stuff reminds me of an artist I admire a lot, Georg Gross, who was, I guess, sort of kind of a German expressionist adjacent, who was, like he had the whole, like all of his education, and then he went and did these sort of like caricaturized you know, people in these environments and all this stuff. So what I would like to say is that I would say it would be cool to see how you would approach something like what we're seeing here, the early stuff, after this like increase of technique and capability, because I think there is still something interesting in the older work that can improve a lot and still have that particular character, but now with all of that technique and control that you have now. So awesome.
Yes, 100% agree. Yeah, awesome work.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's kind of like a don't forget your roots kind of a thing.
Oh, I've forgotten my roots because my roots artistically were bad, but like here they're good. So we should we should admire it and support it.
Okay, all that to say, awesome, Alex.
Yeah, good advice.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Alicia! Yay!
Wow.
I think Alicia's just works so
I
hard, doesn't she? She
Alicia's
works so
work.
hard all the time as well. Amazing.
Yes, and I love her aesthetic so much. I think, she just has such a really clear vision of the kind of work that she likes and wants to make. And you can just see that come out more and more in her work, I think, as she just continues to learn and study and practice and grow in confidence too with making the kind of work that really appeals to her. And I think you definitely see that here between the two of these. So yeah, I love it, Alicia. Great work. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, there's just like a lot more kind of compositional control and just like there's definitely there's a lot more complexity here, and yeah, back to what we were just talking about, there is consistency between your older work and what you're doing currently, except it's just a lot more sophisticated. So,
yeah, and I think Alicia
Cool.
does have such a strong vision as an artist, and it's exciting to actually see her getting the skills to be able to kind of bring that out. So it's a joy to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 100%.
Awesome. All right, Elisa.
Should I begin this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is a cool opportunity to critique, right? Like the piece that you sort of began with is already quite good, right? There's a lot of really good qualities in the head, in the character, right? Like if I don't quite remember or I probably I don't need to. I believe that it looks like the person portrayed, even without the comparison, which is quite interesting that can happen, right? Like that in both cases here, right? Like I believe that you are honest and accurate in the way that they appear, which I think is great. That even with as the technique improves, you've kept that kind of honesty of observation, but obviously the tone has improved incredibly, right? Like in what you're doing right now, there's a lot of control of just accent, right? Like we're clearly in the older piece, my eye kind of doesn't know where to concentrate as much, right? Is it on the hair? There are contrasts there, and there aren't enough contrasts in the more important areas of the head. There's some issues with anatomy. I like the clavicles and stuff. So, but that's all coming together right now in this other piece, right? There's this increase of tonal accents. The accents are where you need them, which is really important. They're not where you're just observing them. The anatomy, the clavicles, all of that is and if you've taken any of my class, I love clavicles. When I don't see clavicles, I start to panic. But now I see clavicles, and I'm very happy. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool, and a really nice control of the highlights as well, because it's very easy to get kind of caught up in that specular highlight and have it be have it kind of overpower the halftones. But it's not happening here, right? Like everything is in the right place. So. really great work. I don't want. Yeah, I will say, if you can, I would probably emphasize, and you're already making this happen, right? But if you can emphasize the kind of edge quality between your core shadow and your cast, and you're doing this in certain places, right? Like on the sternocleido mastoid, on the shadow coming from her nose onto her cheek, all that stuff is good. But I think you can emphasize that a bit more. Because right now, in certain areas, there's just this like even sort of like there's an like some of the terminators are just a little bit too even, and because of that, I feel like there needs to be more information in the darker areas, because it's not, I'm not being taken away from it by just an interesting contour of the terminator and the shadow, right? Because a lot of the times you can kind of attract attention to an area that you don't really need to, and then in doing that, like, it looks empty if you haven't spent enough time in a certain area. But all you need to do is take us away from there. So it feels as though you spent a lot of time in some areas, but you don't really need to. You just need to. It's sort of a sleight of hand, right? Like, you just need to redirect our attention with more with more confident accents, which it's already happening. So I think it'll happen. But super great progress, like incredible. It's awesome stuff.
Yeah, and I think, this is one of the ones, that Iliya actually chose to highlight this one from looking at them, and it's a really beautiful one to take more time over, and it is sensational with the red values. Some people are saying in the chat, really drawing attention to that, controlling those values so well in the red tone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think drawing a portrait with just pencil is such a, I mean, Iliya, you said honesty, I think, somewhere in there. I think that's kind of true. You just have to be really honest about your observations and what you're seeing and what you're depicting. And you can just tell that there's a growth in an understanding and observation and doing that kind of honesty between these two. There's really nowhere to hide if you're just drawing a portrait with a pencil. It's tough. Requires a lot of honesty.
Sure.
So yeah, amazing work, Elisa.
Okay, yeah, awesome, Elisa. All right, Amelie.
Ooh, nice.
You can really see quite a lot of progress here, can't you? I mean, it's
nice. Sort of incredible. There's a lot of progress here.
Yeah. And actually quite nice having the two portraits looking in the same sort of direction almost. It kind of gives us a really nice comparison. And the second one just feels so much more solid and three-dimensional than the first one. Incredible.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, especially with that much more difficult pose being foreshortened too. That's really, really, difficult to get all those proportions right, all those overlapping forms. And also using your values and edges to communicate those forms. I think you see that a lot more strongly in the second image compared to the first one. It's just a huge growth.
Yeah.
So great work.
Yeah, I don't even know what I mean. Like the angle, the control of the halftones, because in a way most of that is absent in the original, like in the older one, like the older piece, right? Like all the halftones kind of fall into each other. There's like all the edges are very even. There aren't any lighter halftones to give an understanding of the anatomy, and yet all of that is happening in the other one, like all of that. So I don't know how much time is between them, but it almost is irrelevant because it's like awesome. It's like, yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. We'll have to keep moving here. So awesome work. And Angela.
Ooh. Actually, I think these are both
it's
really
good
beautiful.
to see. There's lovely qualities in both.
Yeah. Although I think there's probably a more confidence and sophisticated use of color in the second one, and more space and
Yeah.
depth too. And you can really feel that there's a lot of depth there with the design of the edges and shapes kind of receding smaller in the foreground, getting, less and less detail as we go back. So, definitely more going on there. But I think the first one's also really beautiful. So that's amazing, Angela.
Yeah. And maybe there's just a little bit more storytelling going on in the second one as well than in the first.
Yeah, I think, it's hard to say exactly. I think there's more sophistication in the use of the paint, right? Because in the older image, it's just like, it looks like kind of paint applied to get something on there, right? But it's not using the power of the paint. And I'm not even talking about the color, right? Like, but just like either you're scumbling or adding paint more opaquely or any of that. So I think, but the older one might be something like gouache, and the newer one might be oils or something. But regardless, there's a lot of improvement there for sure.
Yeah.
Though I agree, the old one's cool.
Remember your roots, right?
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, Iliya?
I didn't. Peter did.
I did.
So
Oh, Peter did? Whatever.
I fought against it, but yes.
So moral of the story,
Strong
Angela,
answer.
you have always been awesome.
Yeah, which is that's a solid compliment there. No, yeah.
Jeez, why are we here? Peter could just...
Okay, Angela, we got to keep moving. Ashwini, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. But, wow.
Okay, I'm going to talk first because they're flowers. These are so beautiful. I mean, I think both paintings are beautiful, but I mean, that second painting especially is so luminous. I think there's such a wonderful handling of the edges and the overlapping of all those complex forms. And just understanding the forms of those tulips as a simple form, and then only secondarily as, individual petals. I think you can just really feel the nature of that form of the flower in space, all grouping together. And it just reads so well, so coherently, really good control of the medium, of the values, all that stuff. I mean, I think the first painting is actually really beautiful too, but I mean, the second painting is so impressive. So amazing work.
Yeah, I mean,
I kind of want to say something a little bit about. Okay, I will now come back to, yes, you should remember your roots, because there is a lot of great stuff in the older painting. I love, but this is like a very personal. I love the kind of like the hatch marks almost of the paint application. That's not for everyone. That's just like a personal kind of like the way that you apply paint. But also, you manage to harmonize like every color in the rainbow into one painting, which is not easy to do. But you are taking that into the stuff you're doing right now, which is just in a way that's just a bit more kind of like on the gradual end. But there is a lot of atmosphere because of this, I think, of this like color, like this like appreciation of color that I think is evident.
Mm. Yeah, and I would actually like to see this student maybe take some of those ideas from before and their next pieces, where they kind of maybe think about the background again and the kind of relationships of color of the flowers, but also color of the background in a similar way to the way they have done before. Because I think there could be like a third step of really super exciting work that comes from taking some of the ideas and putting them together. I can see something. Yeah, synergy. I can see that really going for that student.
Okay, wonderful. Birgit or Birgit?
I think these are really both beautiful paintings again. I mean, I think in the second one, I feel like all the different kinds of textures and materials there are just handled with, I feel like more more confidence. Like I think you feel the variation in textures more maybe than in the first one. And I think the colors are also like so vibrant. Like you must have gotten a lot of paint mixing experience and color mixing experience between these two paintings to, you know, capture all those reflections in the bottle, for example, so believably. It's really beautiful work.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And the second one, there's just so much more dynamic between the objects as well. You know, you can actually see the interplay more, and I feel as if the artist has really thought much more about the composition and leading the eye around the painting than they have perhaps in the first one. So yeah, I definitely feel as if there's more thought put into the second, but the first one's beautiful as well.
Yeah, I like both of these for different reasons. Kind of, I like in the older painting, I like the more kind of the cooler, more muted sort of colors, and also the fact that it seems like it's outside, or like there isn't a light that is directional. However, in the newer painting, yes, there's a lot more sort of control of how you're composing and how you're thinking of how every single element is helping you compose, right? Like from the color to where things are, accents, edges, all that has improved a lot. But also, yeah, like play around with the more kind of with more atmosphere, I think, because you have a knack for that too.
Mm. I kind of like quotidian sort of still lives like that too. It's like just some paint cans. I like that kind of subject, even though I don't paint it very much, but
no,
I like it.
I'm with you. Like those are the ones I admire. Like I look and like, oh, somebody painted a corner of like a room or something, and there I go, like setting things up. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, well, why not? But yeah, so it's true.
Okay, awesome. We'll try and pick up the pace just a notch. And we have Celeste.
Yeah, I think Celeste's work's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think you might have seen Celeste a few times as well, Catherine. And she's really fascinated with this kind of like lighting and sort of outdoor spaces. And I've just kind of like seen so much growth in her since she's been working with New Masters Academy. And I can't believe the difference that we're seeing here in these two in terms of the composition of sophistication and just the kind of picture making choices. It's really quite impressive. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the more recent painting has kind of like a Hopper-esque kind of vibe to it, like a little bit of a Nighthawks sort of thing. But I think the understanding of light is a lot more sophisticated, like thinking of light actually as a force that moves and bounces and reflects and fills space and everything. You can just see the understanding a lot more in the second painting. There's just a lot of growth there. So it's beautiful, Celeste. Great work.
I'm not sure there's a comparison here, right? Like there is the older painting, which now that I work in the games industry, I have a fondness for what's here. But on the other hand, yeah, but like I think what seems like the thing that it really improved is just like the complexity of the color harmonies, and yet there's still all these like kind of intense chromatic colors and accents, but it's all held together. Like I'm imagining that as a scene. It has kind of a Diebenkorn element as well, I think. And I don't know if you know Diebenkorn, but I imagine you do. But if you do not, you should check them out because it's close. It's getting there. So really cool.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Darina.
Ooh. That's cool. I feel like both pieces have so much movement in them, and clearly a lot of expressive shapes and expressive forms and everything. Of course, you can see in the most recent work, there's also a lot more understanding of form and rendering form and thinking about value and how value and edges describe form, but it still maintains that same kind of energy that we see in the first one too. So I think we see more remembering of roots, right?
It's the theme. It's the theme for all this.
The theme.
Yeah, I'd almost like to see the second one as a full mermaid as well, like actually taking that kind of gestural movement and doing a really huge mermaid in the same kind of style. I think I'd quite enjoy that.
No, yeah, I think
That sounds like fun.
I agree with that, and have the sort of like the ecological like accent, right? Because I imagine that's what's happening. It's like, you know, pick up your shit, right? Like that's kind of that kind of idea. So, however, I just have to comment. I think in the portrait, I at times I think that whole like making the hair fade into the environment with like some sort of a charcoal texture and it becomes hair. I think at times that's overused, and there were some great examples who we tried to imitate and then kind of, speak for myself, fall short. But I think it's done remarkably here. Like, it's not annoying me at all. It's not. It doesn't seem like it's gratuitous. Right? Like that's the problem. Like often it's. I should stop while I'm here. I think I'll start like talking about kindergartens or whatever. I shouldn't do it. But yeah, like at times it can be like it's just like the illusion of expressiveness, and here I think it is expressiveness, and there's a big difference between those two.
Wow, that was deep. Jeez, I'm gonna think about that. That's a big takeaway for me, at least.
Yeah, I'm glad I pivoted. I had an artist in my head that I was like, nope, don't do it. Not the platform. Let's move on. Shall we?
Beautiful work. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, wonderful, Darina. Dio.
Mm-hmm. This is really cool, actually. I think they're, yeah, like this is also a great example of like really having a clear idea of what you want your art to be about, and yet still improving, right? Like, and still like not getting caught into, yeah, like I think the interesting thing that I see here is that even whereas in the older piece there is an actual sequential kind of for narrative happening, right? We go from panel to panel, and there's a text, and nothing happens. In the newer image, that's not happening, and yet there's more of a narrative, and that I think is huge. And like that is like really, and that means the progress there is harder to quantify. It's not just like, you know, the tones improved or this, but like I'm just more interested in that image, and it's not simply because it's in color, but there is just like you care more about what's going on there.
Yeah, and
I think the second image is like, oh, sorry, Marian.
I was just going to say, I really love the way Dio's actually pulled you really in by controlling how soft the milk vending machine is, and kind of like actually taking you right into the kind of the reflection of the child in there. I just feel as if that's really well handled with the soft and the sharper edges. It's really carefully done.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Do people buy milk from vending machines? That's scary. But also, like you've never seen an image like that second one before, right? Like that idea or that story moment, like you've never seen it shown that way, and yet you understand it immediately. And it's kind of like, oof.
It's heartbreaking, right? It's so heartbreaking, this image.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's like, oh, gut punch. But and yeah, it's all conveyed very super simply, you know. They're not a conversation, no speech bubbles. It's just one image. It's really powerful.
Yeah, awesome. Really, really cool.
Yeah, keep that up. That's really great.
Yes.
Dylan.
Frog.
I do like, you know, similar subject matter. It's easier to be, you know, it's easier to critique this in terms of progress, I think.
But I think that's like a good thing to do also if you're a student and you maybe have particular subjects that you just really like drawing, whatever it is. to just do the same one, maybe even a similar angle every year, and then have a whole album of frogs. I feel like the second one is like more minimal somehow, and yet shows so much more understanding of form compared to the first one, where the shading is kind of all unidirectional. And even though there's not shading in the second one, you can just tell by the application of the line that there's more three-dimensional thinking going on. And I think it actually is a more tricky pose, that one too, because you actually do have overlapping forms foreshortened. So, and a very expressive face on that frog too. He's really cute.
Yeah.
And I think looking at this, I can kind of, see what kind of courses Dylan's been actually doing. And what's really nice is he's applying stuff that he's learned in other places to this. So it's really nice to see him kind of like taking that knowledge and actually applying it in this drawing.
I also think it's like it is extremely important to always keep in mind that like the goal of technique is to be able to get as much on the page with like the least amount of as possible, right? So like I completely agree that it's the newer image of the frog is just all in line, and yet there's just a lot more happening, and it's all done in just like an easy kind of like a curve here, a curve there. That's huge, actually. Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm just glad you're still drawing frogs.
Great work.
Makes me really happy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yes.
Okay, Liz.
Okay. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to kind of take a slightly closer look at Lizzie's work, because I'd kind of been quite involved watching her develop the second piece, which she did specifically for this exhibition, because she really wanted to do a piece that was showing where she'd got to. And we don't see it here, but like she had a whole load of ideas, iterations, and she also kind of kept going back and forward, changing the pose a little bit, developing the character of the figure, thinking about each and every single element of it. And I think just the sheer kind of like growth between the first image here and this is absolutely phenomenal. And now you've got a student who's not just doing the lessons, but they're actually trying their very hardest to take those lessons and then make a piece of art that's kind of saying something strong that they want to say it. So I just wanted to kind of like really highlight the kind of process and the journey and the kind of thinking that goes behind actually creating something really strong, like what we've got here. So yeah, that was why I wanted to kind of pick Lizzie's out to kind of pull attention to.
The progress is, I don't know how much time is between, but also in some ways irrelevant, because it's just like huge.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's, that's all I got, like enormous amount of progress. And
yeah, I was just going to say, having, like spoken with Liz and because we have a lot of students who, Liz is a busy person. She's got, children to look after and job and everything like that. But, Liz makes these kind of decisions about getting up early in the morning, putting the time in, putting the effort in, and really, working hard each and every day consistently. And I think that kind of like consistent approach to her artwork is really, paying off, because she's, there for it, doing it all the time. And you can see that kind of like steady growth that then suddenly becomes magnificent when you look at it in comparison to something from earlier on.
Yeah, you don't know anything about getting up early, do you, Marian? Or working hard. I think it's beautiful work. I think it's amazing. And I like also that the inspiration comes from mythology. I mean, this is Atlas, right? Holding up the globe or whatever. And I like that kind of, I don't know, taking inspiration also from these kind of ancient sources that are always eternally new, again, always have new meaning in each new generation of artists. And I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was a really cool subject to take on, and also, of course, beautifully done.
All right, fabulous. Franz?
I can start here. Yeah, I'm a fan every time I see someone start off by doing some sort of like hint of a background that's like hazy and smudged, and then that's gone. That's for me enormous progress. No matter what's happening on the actual head itself, I'm glad there's no more background. That's like it's taking away. It sort of has this like it has this quality of like being replicated from like an image of some kind. Like it's taking the wrong aspects of the photography. If it's using a photograph, I'm assuming it is, but I might be wrong. But I know the other one is too, but it's not coming across in the same way, right? So just like there's a different approach to what's in front of you now, whether it be like working from an image or an actual person in front of you. I think there's much more analysis, much more control, like much more care. Like there is like kind of like I care about the person, not only because he was my model for my course on New Masters, but also because like if I remove myself from all of that, but yeah, that is, and that's sort of like that's not really touching upon the some of these technical things like the planes of the head or anatomy. It's more just like what comes across, and there's a lot more coming across here.
I think as well it's about picking a more dynamic pose as well, and a pose that kind of feels like it's more exciting to look at, whereas in the first one the shoulders are kind of just level and you're not really engaging much with the view or anything like that, whereas in the second one it's a much more kind of like strong pose. You kind of like seeing him really intensely look at something. I think those kind of decision making things that you get as you develop your artistic taste kind of begin to become powerful in your work as well, rather than just the techniques that you use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think there's such a clear understanding of the form that you can see in the second one, and that's communicated with the handling of edges and with the use of the shapes and edges, even of the highlights to show the form. It just feels like there's much more three-dimensional thinking going on in the second one compared to the first one, although I think they're both really beautiful drawings. But I think there's a level of sophistication in the second one in terms of just understanding the forms and understanding the light. So it's really beautiful work.
Yeah.
Awesome. Gabriel?
Ooh. You're both so cool. I like both of these. Is it gouache? Or
yeah, it kind of looks like gouache, doesn't it?
And there's oil.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd quite like to see an undersea one now. I want to see him doing the undersea one with the jellyfish and kind of like sea forms going on.
I mean, I think they're both beautiful. I think the second one, again, just feels like there's more of like a believable depiction of light, like light that's actually moving through a space and moving through trees and leaves and foliage and stuff like that. You can really feel like where the light is coming from and the direction that it has. But I mean, I also just love underwater things, paintings of like fish, and maybe I should paint a jellyfish. Now I'm all inspired. I really like that.
I've been thinking like the whole time I'm thinking that too. It's like I've always avoided that topic, but it's time. It's time. And
that's the next challenge.
To paint some underwater stuff.
Yeah.
I think in the newer in the green one, in the outdoor, I do feel that that one just, it seems more intimate and more personal. And that is like, as opposed to the jellyfish, which is cool, but it feels like, like I kind of agree that it would be nice to see a take on that right now, right? Like after having gone through all of this like education and practice and all that stuff, because I think that would lead to a painting that is just a bit more you. And I haven't seen a lot of your other stuff, but that's just how I'm kind of immediately responding.
Yeah.
And
I think these definitely feel like it's the same artist. Like it still definitely has like a strong, I think, aesthetic and a strong kind of point of view. And I always think that that's so impressive, actually, when you can see that a strong point of view comes across from the first efforts that you make to, you know, more sophisticated work that has more education and more experience behind it. And you still see that consistent kind of point of view. I'm always really in awe of that because I don't think I had that. So I think that's very impressive, Gabriel.
Giovanni?
These are beautiful.
I mean, there's sort of no comparison, right? Like you're looking at these remarkable, sketches of heads, and there's a lot going on there that's really amazing. Like from the tonal qualities to just like the difference between all the characters of the heads, and that's emphasized, and like the quality of light even, and the older images. Like I see a care and like an interest in the anatomy and getting, but it clearly was not. You didn't have that at the time, but that's that you do now. So that's kind of awesome. It's great to but once again, this is one of these where the progress is just enormous. So you should be proud, I think.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to kind of see how this student now would then move on and tackle figures. It'll be interesting to see how their figure work develops as well and grows as they kind of move through more classes and kind of tackle the figure. Because clearly, they've always had a sensitivity to line, and, they've always been kind of like really aware of trying to control that. But it would be really lovely to see how they then move on in terms of the progress in the figure from these portraits. But they're absolutely beautiful as well. Beautiful portraits. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Even the quality of line, right? Like the quality of line.
Guys, we're going to have to really pick up the pace here. So let's,
Peter.
let's just take a look through the next few ones.
Okay.
Green Valley Boy.
Oh, these are cute. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about this one in the prom, the orange one, but just that kind of whole design, the kind of asymmetry, the power, the drama of the piece, the kind of like almost storytelling that you get just in that one figure is amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, once again, enormous amount of progress here. Like you started with this sort of right, in a way, in like a style that is quite derivative, and that's totally okay. That's how a lot of people begin. But then, like what you're working on right now has just a lot more character. It's just interesting. It's it feels more personal. Awesome stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Beautiful work.
Hannah.
Ooh,
Wow.
I really love these. These are beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
That's an exciting
I think
image,
these
isn't
are
it?
both beautiful.
Yeah, mermaids are quite popular this season.
Yeah, we should do an
I
underwater
think we have
theme
to.
for
This needs to
next
be the next
event,
big
but-
NMA,
it's time.
underwater with NMA.
I mean, again, I think the first still life is really beautiful. Again, I mean, there's a lot of attention to form and light and, observation. Obviously, it's really nicely done. But I mean, the second one, you just see so much more happening with the story and just the design of shapes as well, and how the shapes kind of contribute to the storytelling and the composition and just the feeling of the piece overall. I mean, it's just really beautiful, incredible
Yeah, it has
work.
a kind of printmaky feel to me. It feels like an etching, feels like it would work really well as a multiple.
Yeah.
Actually, it'd be such a nice piece to do, and that format is stunning.
Yeah, like all the clouds in the back. I'm assuming the clouds or like are really. It's really that's very hard to do and hard to control, right? But like to create this, like all that is in that background with essentially a parallel, like long hatch. That's some technique there. That's really cool.
Awesome. It's
Issa? Yes. I was going to talk about Issa's work. She's been in a few of my classes and does beautiful oil paintings. And I felt like there was just so much growth here. And I've seen your flowers too, Issa, and that while we don't have flowers here to talk about, I know for a fact that your flower paintings have definitely grown in sophistication quite a lot from the first image on the left. And just besides that, I mean, I think if you look at the portraits here, the kind of expression that you see in the image on the right is so human, and it's so it's kind of like a moment in between expressions, like she's almost going to smile but not quite. I think it's a much more difficult thing to capture than compared to the first image. And also I just really like the paint application just of her shirt, the kind of brushy paint application at the bottom, and also in the background, that sort of contrast between the paint texture, I think is so cool. It's very tempting to just paint all the way to the edges like a good student, but a little bit of expressiveness to contrast against all the attention lavished on the portrait, I think is a really nice moment. So, and it's very hard to paint lipstick. I mean, come on, it's very difficult.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard
It's
to
the
paint
worst.
makeup, isn't it? Makeup is always difficult to try and paint in a reasonable way.
Yeah.
And yet it's here, not just it's also in the eyes, right?
Yeah.
Like, first of all, the eyes are like remarkably painted, and you know, eyes are also awful, right? Like they're hard to paint, and they're just I'd rather not, but you have to. But here it's just like, but there's also like there's some makeup there as well, but it's hinted at. It's not overstated. Those eyes really like capture your attention. They're not over modeled. Yeah, it's awesome stuff.
Yeah, and I think just the understanding of color has really changed a lot for this artist, where they're kind of like not dirtying up their skin tones. They're really kind of like keeping them lovely and fresh and clean. And it's that idea that in the first one they probably feel like they've got to dot every I and cross every T to kind of make it feel like a finished painting. Whereas in the second one, they're kind of understanding that the paint's telling the story without them having to outline every single aspect of it. So it just stands really strong when you look at it.
Yeah, I think that's really evident in the hair, right? Like it's really evident, like that the hair is just this sort of like it's flat, but all controlled with the edges, as opposed to looking into it and refining every little part of it. Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah, really wonderful, Issa. Jack.
Jack.
Oh, Jack. Wow, these are incredible.
Yeah, this is a little hard to do. This one's hard to do. It's hard to critique, I think.
Yeah. I mean, they're both lovely.
I think they're both beautiful. They're both beautiful. Yeah. Of course, we're always going to say that they're both beautiful. But the second one is I think, just so much more sophisticated in the composition and the color. I mean, the first one is a lot of green, which it's very hard to deal with, I think, when you have that much green. But the second one's a lot of green too, and there's so much more variation, and it's much more naturalistic feeling. It's not an intense green, it's a really earthy green. And that tree is so beautiful. I mean, it's just, it's really, really nice.
Yeah. There's that feeling of weather in the second one as well that you just don't have in the first one. You kind of feel like this is a place that exists. There's actually some kind of like energy and the kind of atmosphere, and you kind of feel as if there's movement there, and there's actually temperature and all those kind of things. You actually have a feeling of what it feels like when you're in it, and it's just much more intense in terms of its variation of brushstrokes. So yeah, I think it's a lot of really lovely progress there, and I love what he's doing in the sky, making the sky so prominent too, rather than just a tiny bit of sky.
It seems there's a comment about Pizarro, who I love, but I feel like the older painting is more of the Pizarro, and the newer one is more Constable. And I feel like that could be sort of the progress in a way of like just your kind of artistic tastes changing, and that's interesting to observe here. I don't know. They're both really good. I'm not even gonna. I know that's bad. I should say, you know, that I like both though. I like both kind of evenly. So I'm sorry that you've made no progress, Jack. I, of course, am kidding. They're both really great. I'm sure you know I'm kidding, but yeah, it's really good. Like, awesome work.
Another case of Jack has always been awesome.
Great work, Jack.
Yeah. Next, we're not interested in always awesome. So,
Jan.
I recognize that man on the left. Interesting. I kind of feel what's happening here is kind of what was spoken about a little earlier about like a person taking their education and their like the exercises from New Masters Academy and all these like really like things that are quite important, but then beginning to apply them to like more personal, like unique subject matter. And I think that's always great to see, because, you know, it's very easy to be, you know, always in school, but you do at some point have to, like even after school, but like you, at some point you do have to like, you know, kind of, you know, tackle who you are as an artist, which is possibly the hardest part, harder than any of the technical aspects of it. So, and you're doing that here. So that's really sweet.
Yeah, and I think Jan's been kind of like doing these portraits. You know, she's been really kind of like pushing herself to kind of like get out there and get her work seen by people, and she's kind of taken on board commissions and things like that. And I think it's then, you know, that you really kind of have to pull out all the skills that you've got and apply them. And it's good to actually then be an artist practicing, you know, your work and your craft for real for people. And what I really enjoy about this one is the kind of unusual angle, the kind of like sense of joy that's in it, but also I love the handling of the fabric underneath the skin, because you get this really nice kind of framing happening. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. I think that's really, really beautifully done. And again, just so much understanding of the forms and looking at that difficult angle, that foreshortening, and making that read well is really difficult in that drawing. I think it's a bigger challenge than the pose on the left, but you can tell that, you know, she's up for it. She can do it. Yeah, it's beautiful work. Thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Like both
Yeah,
He's another guy who's made no progress at all.
You know what though? I really think that the handling of the water is a huge improvement though in the one on the right, that you can feel that in the first one it's maybe a little bit more abstracted, or
maybe just a bit more.
It really feels
maybe
like water
even just kind of confused or unsure of how to actually do it, so they're kind of putting it in, but without the kind of insight and the knowledge of how to apply the paint there. But I do really like the composition in the first one. I think it's quite a nice tight view. I quite enjoy that. But I think the second one, you can see that he's definitely refined his handling of the media, you know, superbly well.
Yeah, there's kind of like the introduction. There's an introduction of like a narrative, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. It's cool to see, and I'd like. This is one of the instances where I'd like to see kind of both approaches and kind of combine a little bit. Like I agree that the tightness of the composition in the older painting is quite effective, and that not just in terms of where everything is, like in the image, but also like the color accents and everything. But then to introduce the handling and the control and possibly even like those hints of character interaction that you get in the newer painting.
One thing I think is quite interesting for artists is like quite often in those early pieces when they're doing work that's kind of like beyond their pay grade, as it were, there's kind of things there to pull out of. There's kind of ideas, there's kind of energy, there's kind of interesting stuff to go back and revisit and think, well, actually, with the new knowledge that I've got, let's not throw everything away, but let's take what we had there and really see what we can do with it and develop. Because I think quite a lot of the artists have got really strong ideas and, kind of clear visions of what they want to do as artists in those early days. And I think it's valuable to keep that work, to be able to look back on it and pull things out of it.
All right, fantastic. Jan.
More frogs.
Yes, frogs and jellyfish. It's our theme.
Well, in the case of the frog on the left, I see the attempt to sort of understand the construction and the kind of changes in plane, the cross contours, and then you got it the right. So like here, the progress, there's just a clear line that moves from one to the other, and that's always good to see that like you clearly had a goal.
His words were too powerful.
Disappear.
Yeah. I was just going to say something along the lines of there's been a massive jump and improvement. But yeah.
I don't. Yeah, it kicked me off, and then it said, "But you're still in there." I'm like, I clearly am not. Yes, it's cool to see the progress. If I could keep that thought before it leaves me. Yeah, it's very cool to see like that you had a goal and you've hit that goal. Like that is the definition, right? Of progress. So it's right in front of us here.
And I like that the description of the form is so simple, right? That it's a complicated thing, it's a complicated little animal, but it's distilled down to an essence that is clear and simple, and it's depicted nicely, very, very skillfully. It's really great work done.
And I think again
Wonderful.
That kind of like placing them all dynamically on the page like that as well, so you kind of enjoy the whole set of studies. It's fun to see a page that's really beautifully presented like this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Before we move on, because we're approaching the hour here, and that was supposed to be our time limit, but there are so many left. We're only halfway through. Marian and I are going to stay on. Iliya, I know that you'll have to go in a few moments, so feel free to leave whenever you can.
I can stay too. I just got to move.
Okay. Well, how about you can go and do that, and we'll hit a little "be right back" screen, and Marian and I will stick around, and you can come back if you're happy, and we'll keep going.
All right, great. I'll see you guys in a second.
Okay.
Cool. Hey, I can't leave now. God, you've roped me in. What am I supposed to do? Just leave halfway through?
You are an honored guest, Iliya. You can.
No,
leave
I think it'll go. It'll be fine. No, I can't do it now. But I'll be back.
Okay,
in a
guys.
second.
Well, either way, we'll switch our
go.
cameras and mics off. And Iliya, thank you so much. If you have to go, no problem. If you want to stick around a little bit longer, we'll be back in just a moment.
No, I will 100% be back.
Fantastic. Okay, guys. We'll all see you soon. Hello, hello.
Hey. Nice
Hello.
change of
Long
scenery.
time no
What's up,
see.
everybody? Yes, flight seems we have a lot of meetings today.
Sure do.
But now I have a table to
That's
put my
good.
coffee on.
You've got a coffee. Oh,
Yes, I have
That's good.
cold brew. Cold brew season. It's really good. I'm drinking way too much of it.
I think I need one as well.
yeah, I forgot to bring up the liquid. Oh,
Well, I'm sure Iliya will join us when Iliya
Yeah.
is ready, and I will go ahead and
Iliya's
Start
gonna
the
do what he
share
wants to do.
so let's go.
yeah. Let's get moving. So we've seen this
And
one.
we were on Jan talking
Yeah.
about frogs. So why don't we go ahead and move on to Joe.
Ooh.
Ooh. I think that's a Winslow Homer master study on the right. Is that correct? Does anyone else know?
I'll trust you on that one, Catherine.
Hi, Iliya. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Not
thank you.
Iliya.
Oh, you're in a different place. Yes.
I'm in a different place.
Cool.
Iliya, do you know this is a Homer master study, right? On the right?
Yes, I think so.
Yes. That's really
I
nicely
think
done.
so.
It's beautiful. Yes.
Is
And
the
of
original
course,
one
I
in
always
oil?
is the original one what?
In oils? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, I assume so.
Yeah,
don't
it
know.
must be.
I think it must be. He's a great artist to study. I love his work. And of course, you can learn so much doing master studies like that, especially like a full-size one. That seems like it's probably a pretty big painting, almost like a one-to-one study, which is a great way to learn about paint application and about rendering forms, like all those small forms in the shirt and in the grass and stuff like that. A great way to study and learn how to do that kind of thing. It's really nicely done too.
Yeah, and I think in terms of ambition from the student as well, you've gone from, pencil to then really exploring complicated media. So they've really kind of pushed the boat out in terms of what they're willing to give a go, and they're handling it really well.
Awesome.
Yeah, it seems as though that this right, like even in the older piece, there's this interest in. I mean, I don't know if that's like also potentially a copy, but right, it's like those Da Vinci heads or Roder had those as well, right? These like studies and profiles. So, but yes, it's interesting to see like this like interest in the classical arts continuing into what you're doing now, but with all this progress.
Okay,
Awesome.
that was great. Yeah.
Great, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Julie.
Ooh.
Wow.
That still life is incredible. This is actually my teapot. I don't know if people know that, but I set up that still life. And people always complain about it. I used to bring that teapot into still life classes and just be like, here you go, guys, this is what we're painting. And everyone would be really mad at me.
And rightfully so.
What's that?
And I agree with them. They should be, because this is.
Well, I think it takes a lot of ambition and bravery to take on something like that, because it's very difficult on many levels. But you know what? Also, you can do it. And I think it's really skillfully handled. The way that the information that needs to be there is really emphasized and really beautifully drawn. But a lot of things are subdued a little bit or pushed back, and it actually makes it feel more three-dimensional when you do that. So I think it's just really, really nicely done. And the drapery in that reference is also very challenging. And I think you did a great job sticking to the simple forms and not over exaggerating it or not exaggerating it. Again, it's just a lot of good choices in just what you're choosing to pay attention to and what is allowing to be not as exaggerated. So,
Yeah.
great work.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think also there's a big sort of improvement, and I kind of like I hate sort of saying this, but also it's important, like in in taste, right? Because like we've seen a fair amount of um, of this kind of like you know really carefully modeled head or hand on a white background that's sort of photographic. It's so kind of overdone, and yet, but I think there's like this. But when you're not relying on this once again, and this sort of how do I say this? It's easier to get a more exciting image when you're not doing anything with the background, right? And that's why we're seeing a lot of them. Right? That's why it's like you know, Pinterest art or like Instagram art that I say in with you know I don't mean that in any positive sense. There's a lot of course good stuff on Instagram, but there's also a lot of bad stuff. But then like
Yeah, what are you trying to say, Iliya? That Instagram
I'm,
art.
I'm part of it. I'm not the problem, but I think that it's but then when you're not relying on that and you're taking the skill that you had, right, and then just like really amplifying it in this sort of both in technique and in taste, that really is exciting to see that happen.
Okay. All right, Keith.
Ooh,
Yeah, quite like
Super
both
cool,
of these again.
yeah. The second one is watercolor, is that right?
Looks to be.
Looks like
Looks
it.
like
Yeah.
watercolor. Yeah. There's just some really nice wet into wet techniques with the watercolor, especially on the blue dress on the right. It's really pretty. It's like a combination of wet into wet and then I think some glazing on top. So, and the tree actually behind her head has such a nice variation in the brushstrokes that creates just some nice a nice effect of foliage without really drawing foliage or painting foliage. I mean, it's just a really a nice control of the medium, right? Which it's not hard to do, or it's not hard. It's not easy to do with watercolor. Nothing's easy in watercolor, and it's a tricky subject too. That's very almost like a candid scene of people chit-chatting, drinking coffee or whatever. I hope they have coffee. So I think that's very impressive.
Yeah, and I quite like the little bit of shade on the middle of the table, the kind of differentiation of the table surface. I think that works really nicely as well. And the figure, clearly not quite looking at the other figure, I quite enjoy that kind of conversational moment between them. You kind of think, what is the dynamic between the two?
Yeah, I love that table. I think that table and the glasses on it, and the purse and that hand, right? Like everything around that table, and it's very cool how that's composed because everything sort of revolves around that table. But I think that's quite successful. I have to say, I think the head is awesome. Also, because I think it's done in like Copic markers or something, right? Like that's pretty.
Yeah,
it's hard to do.
Solid looking head, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really awesome. That also takes a fair amount of control, which it makes like I think now the parallel between these hard to use media is apparent, right? Like you don't shy away from a challenge there.
Yeah, Keith, do you ever just do a drawing with like a graphite pencil? You never do that?
Yeah, like normal people. Are you showing off, or are you just showing off?
Yeah.
Thanks,
marker and watercolor. Wow. Dang.
Awesome. Kitsune.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Two beautiful paintings again, I have to say.
Yeah, lovely handling of color, and I really love the pose, especially in the second one, that kind of like dreamy, drifty kind of feel with the hair having a little bit of yellow around it, and the face just looking off into the distance. A really beautiful piece.
Yeah, I love that little bit of the rim light on the hair is so pretty. And it's very expressive. Yeah, go ahead, Iliya.
No. I was just saying, yeah, that's really cool. I was just agreeing. I'm sorry. Yeah, I hate like internet calls because like no one can just talk at the same time, which is it's awful. But that's how like I speak at home with like everyone's just talking at the same time. But you can kind of understand it, but then online that just doesn't work. So I apologize. It's a habit. Okay. It does not cross over into the internet world. So yeah.
I do that all the time too. No. But yeah, I just like the paint handling on both of these. It feels a little bit more like sure maybe in the second one, that there's a more comfort maybe with just using the paint and manipulating it and being expressive with it, where the first one maybe doesn't quite, even though it's beautifully painted, maybe it doesn't quite have the same just level of comfort with the medium. You can sense that there's a little bit more in the second one.
Yeah, it seems as though the older painting is like kind of like this is a theme that's happening today. I feel right, like it's just like there is like it's an exercise, right? It's a technical exercise, while the newer painting is already you applying those skills to something a bit more personal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Which I wholeheartedly encourage always, because that's always like that's the point of it all, right? After all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Lynn.
Yeah, I actually really quite find the first one interesting in terms of the media. It's kind of quite a cool way to kind of put a piece together. And again, there's that kind of repetition of those ideas with the pattern on the figure in the second, but in a in a really different way.
Is the first one collage?
Yeah, it looks like it's collage and then drawn into. Yeah, I like that. I like that technique. Yeah,
that's cool.
That's a new idea.
Yeah.
I actually have a newspaper collage painting myself. Yeah, it's painting. It was, so I this one sort of like the fact that you approached it this way really speaks to me. But I'm a fan of the swirly thing in the other one too. Like that is extremely clean.
Yeah.
You too have made no progress because all of it is good. So, no, it really is.
Well, I think the drawing of the figure is a lot stronger in the second one. Yeah.
Yes, I was about to add that. It's true. Yes, yeah, there is. If we do go into like anatomy and just proportions and just like stuff like that, there is actually quite a lot of progress. But just like both images are quite striking, and that I think is you've kept that as you've improved, which is really
and
great.
You can see that kind of link between
the
two images as well in terms of wanting to kind of like put something onto the figure. I think that's probably something this artist is intrigued by.
Awesome. Marja.
That's really impressive. I love that dog so much.
Yeah, the dog is so good.
So good.
But that cat is still alive too.
I mean, yeah, the cat is beautiful. These are obviously both beautiful, but I mean, the dog is. It's really like a portrait of a dog. Like that is a specific dog, right?
Yeah.
That is someone's pet.
And it's got such a kind of dramatic etherealness to it, doesn't it? It's kind of like, I don't know, it's an incredibly powerful image. It just kind of catches you and you're like, wow. And I love the kind of like little kind of snaggle tooth sticking up. It's just got so much personality.
Yeah,
the kind of uneven, the kind of uneven ears and everything. It's just got so much dynamic power in it.
Great.
Did somebody want to say something? I didn't want to like talk over it. Okay, yeah. I just no. I actually like in a way, it's almost hard for me to imagine that this is the same artist, right? Because like a person who spends all that careful time and is really good at the patterns on the blanket, right? Like going along with the curvature, and then can do this like much more painterly kind of a thing. It's kind of incredible. That's like a lot of different skills that all I'm sure at some point will all kind of come together if you'd like. I also think I have to kind of compliment the chroma on the dog portrait. It's not easy to create a background with that kind of a blue and have it complement the like oranges in the dog, and sort of like an obvious like color combination, but it doesn't read that way. It reads complex in a way. Yeah, it's really great. I love that dog. That dog is
He's
high
awesome.
praise.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Michael.
Mm. That was a
Pretty
crazy
exciting, isn't
drawing.
it? And again,
Wow.
Yeah, I'm
under the
really
sea.
into it. Oh yeah.
Where is it?
Or is it
On
in
theme.
space?
Yeah.
Kind of both.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we need to comment on the progress, right? I think it's evident.
Yeah. I kind of want to see the next step now. Come on, Mike, get to it. The next step.
Yeah. It's so like I just like how it's composed, and like it's it's telling this like really personal kind of, there's like to go from these like quick sketches of a nude and some to this like really like kind of complex piece with all of the technical like aspects as well, but on top of that just composing it and thinking it up even, right? Like this is it's super impressive.
Yeah. I think it's an example of, as you gain skills, you maybe gain skills that can help you to be expressive of the things that you are feeling or thinking, or the ideas that you have. I think a lot of people feel like, well, I can't do that. I'm not ready yet. I have to learn those skills first. I think you kind of see maybe a little bit of that here. Someone, gaining the skills and then therefore gaining the confidence to actually express the things the ideas that they have that are very interesting and cool.
And it's exciting to see, where it will
You're
go
right,
to
Ryan.
next. I think I'd like to see this one in color. I think.
This is what I want on Instagram. I want just only these like crazy out there kind of like pieces. I want to see all like, so that when I scroll I can get I can move into this world. I'm into this world. That you
His
created.
Instagram handle's right there.
I know. I've got my phone right here.
Awesome. Well, take it down, Iliya. And then I'll move on.
No, I think I got it. No, it's all good. I got it.
Okay, Vanilla Michael.
Ooh,
Oh, this is fun as well. And again, we've got a mermaid.
these are great. Yeah, on theme.
Yeah, what is happening? Like, what is the? How are we all on the? How's this? Okay, yeah.
Well, he did a bunch of mermaid drawings for Mermaid back in May. Yeah.
Mm.
And they were so cool. I mean, everyone should go. Speaking of Instagram, go look at all of Vanilla Michael's mermaid drawings, because they were all really had so much personality and beautiful designs. They were super cute and fun. I mean, yeah, I love them. And the first drawing is very successful too, of course, but I think we just see more personality of the artist and a lot more design thinking in the mermaid drawing, which is as Iliya said, you know, that's the thing to do. Take the skills that you're learning and put them towards the things that really interest you that you want to do.
Okay, awesome. We got to keep moving through these.
Yeah, that I agreed. It's just like a really great character piece. It's got really good positive and negative shapes, like really exciting ones. Like that's all I'm looking at. I'm just kind of like going along the contour. And every time there's something interesting happening, it's never like taken too long without a change in the curve or an interruption in the curve. It's like that's awesome.
Awesome. Mihai.
Oh, these are both nice.
Kind of like
the
that
helicopter's
helicopter.
Quite good, isn't it? I
Cool.
quite like the helicopter.
That's intense.
Yeah. Yeah, me
like
too.
Iliya
I'm
should
kind of
talk
thinking
about
the same
this.
thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. No, yeah. It's I think there is like really good job on the Asaro head. I mean, I think that's pretty much as good as it's gonna get. Though I do, because I think the chin is protruding out just a tiny bit. So, but don't change anything. It's good. It's all there. But I do think the kind of structural approach that I see in the helicopter actually is really helping you with the Asaro head as well, right? Like I see that connection there. Like you're thinking of everything in as a three-dimensional object. So that's really nice to see. And I have to say, I do think there is progress in the handling. And I know the helicopter looks also like it's like Copic markers, I think, or some kind of thing like that. But just like I think some of the tonal changes just feel just a bit abrupt in places, but that's clearly all gone now in the Asaro head. It's all just like very sort of carefully analyzed and executed.
Yeah, agree.
Awesome. Yeah, can't wait for the Asaro helicopter assignment with Iliya.
It's coming. I'm recording it as we speak.
Oh wow, this is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
That is so beautiful.
That's an
My
incredible
God.
piece, isn't it? That's
It's
stunning.
incredible. I
Are
love
those
this
like
too
tiny
because
houses?
is it what?
Those like at the bottom, it's like tiny houses from
Yeah.
above, right?
Oh yeah, it is. Oh my
Wow,
gosh.
this is definitely an
Wow.
improvement.
But it still
Yeah.
looks like the same
Yeah, you
artist,
can
doesn't
see the
it?
kind
Like
of-
it looks like the
Yeah,
same
the intricacy.
Yeah. Which I always like to see that the same kind of
Yeah.
aesthetic interests or ideas that made you want to draw in the first place continuing through the work. I think you definitely see that here, but it's just it ends up in such a intricate, sophisticated, beautifully designed
Yeah.
piece on the right.
It's just so
Very
well
impressive.
realized, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. This is. I don't see an Instagram handle. I would like one. This one, I think. This one. I like the tiny people who are climbing. Also, right? Those tiny, like this is just so like you just want to spend the time looking at every single like little part. And as you're doing it, you're just aren't there like those tiny people crawling up her dress? Yeah. It's just like like the more you look at it, the more there is to examine, and like it just moves you in there. It's awesome. It's so good.
Very
I want to see
imaginative.
more.
Yeah.
I want to see more.
Yeah,
Well, that's more.
amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
Nathan.
Ooh. Well, I think, of course, the drawing The drawing on the right was from my charcoal master copies class, and I just think that's such a beautiful drawing. Obviously, I mean, of course, it's a study of a beautiful painting, but I think you can just see the sensitivity and observation of form and light is so much more sophisticated compared to the first image. Although the first image is really fun too, of course. But I mean, look at the variation in edges, look at the care and attention to all of those little value shifts and all those contrasting values and edges. It's just really beautiful work, Nathan.
Yeah, I quite like the fact both of them have got these swooping arcs in them, though they sit quite well together with that.
Yeah.
It's true, yeah.
Great. Awesome work, Nathan. Just before we move on.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, just to let you know, Catherine, it's 4 o'clock, so if you have to run, then feel free.
Oh, yes.
And we
I
will
do.
run through
All
these.
right.
Are you going to go,
It was
Kevin?
so much fun. Yeah, I have to go pick up my car at the mechanic. So I gotta walk down the street and go get it. But guys, this was so much fun. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you guys all for sharing your incredible work. This was really fun to look at. So keep it up, and I believe there's more fun events. I'm sure Peter will tell you about them. But yeah, I'm gonna go.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Bye,
Catherine.
everybody. Bye, Iliya. Bye, Marian.
Bye.
Oh, pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Peter. Bye, everybody.
Bye. And so I will also go because it's evening with Teddy time.
Oh yeah,
all that stuff.
please say hi to Teddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to do. I will. He will now say hi back and walk away. So, yeah, I know it's crazy how that happens. I was not expecting it, sort of. But yeah, I think all of the stuff presented here is really inspiring, right? Like just all the progress, all the different kind of approaches, and also all I think some of the stuff we spoke about was really good. People who started out with sort of kind of a clear idea of who they want to be as artists and have kept it. And that is, I mean, Catherine was talking about that too. There are advantages to starting young, like I did, but you really don't know anything about yourself. And then you sort of, and so it's very cool to see that not happening here, right? To have people who have like a point of view and who like are using all these like techniques to keep like exploring that and getting that across to us as viewers, and that's incredible. So keep up the great work, everybody, and thank you for having me. I hope to be back. And
sure, yeah, no, wonderful words.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us. It was an honor to have you back, and
always my pleasure.
Take care, Iliya. Thanks so much.
I now need to I don't know how to sign off. I just where's the button? Oh, I have to close the window, right? Okay. Bye, everybody.
Click the X in the top right.
Oh, okay, I'm leaving. Bye.
Hit the off button.
Bye, guys.
Okay. All right, Mariam. Well, it's you and me for now. And
Yeah,
why
it
don't we
looks
just
like
keep showering these guys with praise because they deserve it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, and guess who just joined us?
Look, it's
The
just coming.
man himself.
I was trying to catch Iliya's pressure to start doing group coaching for everybody, and the damn link just took a minute, so I lost the opportunity. But maybe I can fill in since they had to step out.
Well, we're glad you're here. Why don't we move on to 36, Marian?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So this is Powell.
Yeah.
Wow.
I quite like the first series of images as well. Quite nice on the page, but you can really see they've got a lot more control of their media in the second.
Yeah, it's definitely it's become way more solid and more three-dimensional. Like the first one is very much like the lines seem to be, what is doing all the lifting, Where in the second one, you kind of feel like there's form there, and then the lines are just sort of describing it. And it's kind of an interesting, like naturalistic yet still sort of, Asian comics kind of a vibe. It's interesting that that's been retained, but it's sort of rounding out.
Yeah, and also kind of still,
impressive.
Intrigued by laying things out on the page together as well. It's kind of, must be something you quite like doing. I like that.
What do you think? What do you think about this?
I think
one,
there's just
Peter?
an added sensitivity. I think I really like that there is a certain quality that has remained, but at the same time, it's like Iliya was saying, like it's wonderful to see when the kind of the heart of the original or of the style that you love remains, but then all of these new skills that you've been learning are able to come in and support and elevate what you were doing even higher. I think it's wonderful.
I think that's a lot harder to achieve, and usually like the best art schools, they tend to be specialty schools like ateliers. But in an atelier, everyone is just moving closer and closer to like what the house style is. What I love about this is that you can see the improvement, but none of it's the same style. Like everybody has their own identity, and that's what's really, really exciting. Because I think, as everyone's been saying, when you see the first ones are often super charming and super lovable, and you can just see the person's personality. And then just to see that sort of just get upgraded, it's like that person improved. Like that's such an inspiration, rather than just moving your style towards the atelier style or towards the house style or whatever that is. So I love that all of these students have different tastes, and I love that. You know what I mean? Like this is unusual that one art school or one website or one source, the work looks so varied here. And I think this is a perfect example of that. We don't have a class that teaches you how to draw like this, but you can see those lessons have been internalized and really improved. So fantastic work.
Totally.
Wow.
Purple.
Oh yeah, it's still like purple.
This is cool. Do you want to
Yeah, I mean, I
start,
think
Marian?
what's interesting here is, like purple obviously loves color. They always use color in their work, and we've got that kind of dynamic shape, but we're just getting a lot more control over the composition, and we're getting a lot more control over how they're actually putting the image together. We looked at this one quite well the other evening, didn't we, Peter? When we were at the prom, and there's just kind of like that really lovely sense of movement that purple's got in there. So yeah, I think there's clearly ideas that purple's taking, but beginning to develop them further and controlling their media more.
Yeah, you get the sense that the purple is going to be able to do more ambitious stuff just by the confidence that you see there. You know what I mean? The first one, we don't really know how much work got into getting the shapes where they are. We don't know how much of a labor it was, but it might have been quite a bit of effort to get that to work. Whereas I think there's a growing confidence that you see.
We really saw that in
work.
Purple's other submissions when we were at prom, didn't we, Peter, with the shape design, especially for some of those. There was some really good shape design in those ones. So yeah, I think it's just that kind of, clarity of what they're trying to do, much more than there was in the first one.
Yeah, it's
what do you think about this one?
Shape design,
Peter?
but also just is an attention to gesture and I think movement throughout this kind of the composing of this figure, whereas in the first one, I don't really see the same sensitivity towards gesture that may have, if you redrew this fox today, I would be really interested to see how that sensitivity to obviously the shape design, but also just the gesture and the flow throughout the body of this animal. I would be really interested to see how that would change, because I think you've probably learned a lot about that.
Yeah.
And the 3D sense too. Like if you look at the paws, the placement of the paws, they're just sort of being hidden behind the branch and you can't really make, whereas the second one, even though it's actually like more abstract in some ways, like there's a lot of silhouette being used, but you can see that foot is on the ground and that dress is on the ground and that's hanging off like you can actually, even though it's so simple, you can feel like you could reach into it and touch it. Whereas the first one has more of a children's illustration, kind of a flat kind of a style, but it doesn't feel as tactile. So yeah, I also would love to see more animals and decorative work like that, but with that gesture and with that more confidence that we're seeing here. Really fantastic work.
For sure. Richard.
Damn.
Well, clearly the first one is better.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly another one of these no improvement situations. I think I'm not sure art is for you. I don't know if it's progress is coming together. I don't know, man. Can you really teach art?
I'm not
That's
sure
my
you can.
question.
It's just innate.
Yeah. Holy crap. Holy macaronis. I don't know how. I'm curious, Richard, if you're around here. How long? This looks like 10 years of progress.
I don't even think
15
it's that
years
long.
of progress.
Yeah, well, we've got 3 years. He's here. Rich is here.
Yeah, Rich says they're
Yeah.
both from imagination. No way.
Wow.
Get the hell
Your
out,
imagination improved, Rich, a lot.
Yeah, exactly. You guys, you can't teach imagination. You either can visualize or you can't.
Yeah.
Can't be taught.
It's just so beautiful.
That's pretty damn impressive. Holy crap. It's almost too impressive to comment on.
Yeah, and
You're
did
too
this.
modest. You should have wrote imagination just like right there in bold so we could see it.
Yeah.
Like if you've got it, like you
like
just
the
want
angst
it.
thing, but
Yeah.
yeah. If you got it, flaunt it. So, I mean, obviously proportion, right? Where the head size, some of the conventions you were using are more like illustration comic conventions, like the way you're handling the pelvis and the joints. Nothing wrong with that, but in the new one, it's so much more naturalistic. It's so much less of a mannequin and so much more of a person. And just the fact that you can move the flesh around from imagination and still keep it believable and weighted like that's really, really impressive work. I'm imagine what the next 3 years is going to bring for this artist, if you can believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the quality of his line, the quality of his thinking, every aspect of this artist has improved, unimaginably. It's incredible.
Yeah. And also the ambition, because you're noticing that this person wants to just go for it. And they're just drawing the figure, even though, maybe the drawing skills aren't, quite where they need to be. But I do see that as one common theme here is ambition. This person doesn't want to make it easy. They want to make it hard. And then they want to, this is somebody who's training to climb Everest. You can tell just the level of ambition, you know what I mean? And that's super exciting to see. Try to imagine 10 years from now what this artist's work will look like if they keep
and I think Rich is going to be going to. Are you going to both things, Rich? Are you going to Tuscany and the anatomy workshop? I think he might be.
Whoa.
Yeah. So not just 10 years time, Joshua.
Richard,
let's get him back at Christmas and see where he's at.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's see how this looks in December.
We're going to see a lot more progress even than this. Amazing.
And Rich,
what an inspiration.
I was just going to say, and Rich just signed up to the 4-year program. So maybe it's time. Maybe I should plug that now. I think Rich is
Rich, you've given us all we need here.
The 4-year program.
Rich, I'm gonna make an offer to Rich that somebody tried to make to me, which is that I'll pay you some small amount of money and I want 50% of all your revenue that you earn in your career over the next 10 years.
Don't take it, Rich. Don't take
reasonable.
it.
I'll take that. My girlfriend's dad tried to do that to me. He was gonna give me $7,000 for a project I was working on. I was 18, but he wanted like 50% of my income over it was insane offer. Such a ripoff, if you can believe it.
Good.
I didn't take it. But I would, if I didn't have morals, I would be trying to do that with you for sure. Keep up.
Yeah, amazing, Rich. Just nobody needs to say anymore. It's just it's all there.
Yeah, take this to Shark Tank, dude. I want you to pay me to keep doing this.
Ronald.
Okay, Ronald.
Yeah.
I love portraits where it's so clearly trying to capture the spirit of the person, or I don't mean this in necessarily a spiritual way, but I love when the artist is trying to draw, and I see a lot of Indian portraits that give me this feeling. There's like a sensitivity and a humanity, and there's a I don't know if this artist, I don't know if this Indian or not. I'm just mentioning that, but I see a lot of it feels like looking at it that it's an attempt to like draw the soul of the person, and when you see that in a portrait versus more illustration types of techniques, which tend to be more popular, where a lot of times it's about the shapes and the effects you feel like more. Like I think Iliya was sort of talking about that kind of thing where it's like just doing a effect on the background without really like it being true expression. It's more like just a convention. Like our teachers are, but what I like about this is that this does seem to give me that feeling of attempting to get at something deeper and something maybe that is more, it's less in the shapes and the shadows. It's not all in the shapes and the shadows. There's a feeling. And sometimes if you look at medieval art, if you look at Buddhist art, if you look at a lot of art forms, they're drawing that essence. They're not even the ancient Greeks, they're trying to draw an essence. And so I think that is something that I see in both works. And it looks to me like the artist is going to keep pushing the structural value, all of that stuff to explore. But I think what really matters most in a portrait is already here. And I just want to acknowledge that. I'll shut up too much. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well what I see, the handling of the media and the choices that the artists are making are a bit more sophisticated in the second. So where in the first one you've got a little bit of muddying where they've kind of like mixed the charcoal and the chalk together, and the second one they're kind of being more clean with the materials. So I think it's about maybe getting more experience of different materials for this artist as well, and then maybe even exploring more materials and finding one that really kind of helps them express themselves in a really clear way. But both of them are really lovely portraits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, the second one is just a bit more of an ambitious pose in that 3/4 view. Like there's a lot more attention to perspective going on, and that may not be something that you were confident doing when you handled the first one. So I think just there are more cogs that have to be turning, I think, to pull off the second one, and I think I can just see a lot of attention to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how far this artist has come at New Masters, but imagine this after the Russian course, or imagine this after dynamic sketching, or after perspective with Eric Olson. It's like this has already got such a feeling to it. If you continue to build out the technical, spatial side of it more, I think that, and you can still retain that charm, I think that your work's going to have a lot of impact. Because there are works that they feel 3D, they're, the value groupings, you can check a lot of boxes and still feel empty. And that's a lot of what, I think that's what Iliya was kind of hinting at. That's a lot of what you see online is work that, okay, they got contrast, they got shapes, they got volume, they got all the things, and yet it feels somehow devoid of life. So that's my advice for you as you continue to go on your journey here, Ronald, or hopefully that happens. My advice is, as you learn more of the technical craft, make sure that is always subordinate to the feeling you're trying to achieve. Don't let that alone become your guiding star. It's about you. And it's about, this goes for every student here, but it's about you becoming the best version of yourself, not you becoming Glenn Villepeu or Catherine or any of us.
Awesome. Yeah. Ross.
Wow. Interesting.
Both really interesting portraits, actually. We've got a lot of kind of, intriguing mark making going on in them as well. What, is Ross still here? Because Ross was here earlier, I'm pretty sure. But I mean, I guess in the second one you can just see. Oh, there he is. Hi, Ross.
Hey, Ross.
Yeah.
Ross
I know this one because you're working on Miles' self-portrait class. So I believe these are
both from Miles.
Both projects from different.
Yeah. So
different
one was last
Miles.
Summer. Yeah. So one would have been like last May, June, and the other one's this is a year kind of between them.
Yeah, I like the in the second one, or the one on the right. I don't know when they were done, but on the one on the right, one thing I really like is that the solidity of it. Like the shoulder is here and it's closer to you, and then the shoulder is actually connected to the chest, and then you can imagine the neck that we can't see, and it's like it's so solid. And I feel like that's also happening in the secondary forms on the one on the left, but the one on the left still feels to me like somebody who is learning how to bend the lines and make them serve, you're like the sorcerer's apprentice. You're trying to deal, whereas the one on the right feels a bit more controlled to me. And so I think as you continue to develop, you can take all of the above. You can wrap lines like crazy, as long as there's that, this is here, this is round, as long as it's subordinated in terms of the value, it's subordinated in terms of those shapes. That the one thing on the left that I think works kind of well is the light to dark, although I know that's sort of inspired by Miles's own portrait, but that light to dark compositionally I think is really interesting. The one on the right, though, you got a clear light direction and it's got a nice solidity. And so I think the solidity of the one on the right is something that I really think you want to build on. And I think your love for line and your love for wild textural applications are going to land better when they are tied together on this, on this sculptural reality, if that makes sense.
I think there's a really lovely feeling in the first one. There's a really nice atmosphere around the eyes. There's some kind of real connection, and I think you get this emotional connection from Rossi's work, and I think it's interesting to see how he's developing. I'm looking forward to seeing how he then begins to build his own particular language that he uses to express these emotions, because I think he's got a lot of interesting things to say.
I think so too.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I know. Not going to get rid of Ross.
And next time you post an update, I expect the beard to be like double the size again.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
That's so funny.
Awesome,
yeah.
Ross. Ryan.
Oh, yeah, Ryan.
Interesting. Very interesting. Do you want to, when do you want to jump in? I don't mind starting.
Yeah, I mean, I think here again, we're just seeing this kind of like more complex composition going on in the second image, where he's really thinking about storytelling, narrative, and, placing different elements and then trying to control where the eye is going in the picture. So it's really just much more intense in terms of the picture that he's trying to tell. But I mean, I think you can see quite a lot of what's in that second picture in terms of his interest in colour and the kind of colours that he likes to use in that first picture. So you get an idea of the kind of palette that he's wanting to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he has in common with both pieces.
Yeah,
I
that
see
blue
Jen.
is definitely appearing twice.
Yeah, I see Jen mentioned this was from Figure and Environment with Renee. And I do remember this from that. And I just, one of the things that I remember at the time, and I still think so, is that just the lighting setup is extremely ambitious. And I think for anybody to pull off a lighting setup like this is really hard. So, I think you did pull it off in the sense very much like that there's the way that you're working with gradients, you're exposing elements to the light and you're hiding other elements and shadows and softening things. Like, just there are so many more factors that are coming into play here that are not in the first one. It's just a far more ambitious kind of an image.
It's exciting, isn't it, when people can actually, they go from being, doing a piece that's really nice in its own right, but then taking that piece and then being really ambitious and creating an actual kind of an artwork that's telling a story that kind of captures your imagination when you look at it.
Yeah, and I think what Peter was saying about introducing multiple factors, I think that's probably more important than a lot of people hearing this will think, because you could do character art, you can do fan art, you can do portraits that are done you can kind of do a very narrow activity and get really good at those techniques and keep improving those techniques over time. But there is something about stepping up to the next level of complexity. So one is like a character portrait. This could be, this looks to me sort of in the style of like Mark Westermo or Chris Legaspi, but it's just really, really well done, really well observed. It does, it's doing several things, right? The head's got a clear shape. It's trying to, describe the form three-dimensionally. There's a interesting gesture and character thing going on with the mouth, and there's an attempt to capture that, and then there's just some nice illustration effects. Throw a gradient behind the head, hit a fat line. And so you see a lot of like techniques being layered upon one another to create this effect. which I think is working. I think it's working well. And the second one though, now we're in it, dude. Like we're exploring space and playing abstract shapes against other abstract shapes, and then look at how well modeled the leg is versus the rest in silhouette. So those extra elements that Peter was mentioning, I think those cause you to have to become a stronger artist to deal with them. And if you keep growing into more ambitious works, and then you go back and do something that's more narrow, like an illustration of a head or something like that, you're going to find that a lot of those things you learned from your mural with 40 figures, what do you know? It makes you better at doing a portrait. And so I think this is a good illustration of that I think to grow as an artist, part of it is you have to increase the ambition. You have to get out of your comfort zone and you have to try something new. That's where the real growth happens. And that's where the flavor, it's where the roux gets into the gumbo, if you know what I mean.
What an analogy. That's great.
I think that's a Marcellus Wallace. Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how about Sarah, who I believe is from New Zealand? So, I mean, hi. Awesome.
Oh. Why don't you just open your window and say hi to her? Because I can't hear you.
Yeah, Sarah always does these really whimsical things, doesn't she? Whatever exercise she does, she always kind of like injects it with a little sense of herself, doesn't she, Peter? She quite likes bringing her own personality to her work. Even when she's doing exercises, she always loves to make it her own and personal. I think that's something that's really important to her.
For sure.
It's shocking that the same artist would be comfortable in both of these techniques because they're so different. And you would think that the artist on the left wouldn't even bother learning anything more three-dimensional or realistic. And you would think that the artist on the right wouldn't have the courage to draw with a line so directly and put it all on the line, so to speak, with that kind of boldness. And that's fascinating. And I would love to see how these worlds can keep colliding, because if you look at you notice the expert technique of the piece on the right, and then you notice the fantasy elements. But at the same time, if you actually look at the shapes, like we all kind of talk about technique. It's always about edges and paint out. Just put that aside. Let's actually look at the outlines, the lines of the design. Look at how those lines dance around. Look at how those flower petals dance. That's the same dancing that she's using in the pillows when she's designing. So there's a subtlety there that I think that I'm really excited to see this develop, because usually it's not the same artist interested in doing both of these styles. I think that's rare.
Yeah, and I think, if I remember, I think Sarah's got this kind of like illustrative background. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how much more she pulls from that as she kind of develops her own tastes as an artist and kind of then begins to build back into doing completely personal work again.
Yeah, people can get so insecure, like, oh, I don't want my work to look like entertainment. Let's say they work in entertainment, then they're going into fine art, which is like something that Danny Gagliotti did. A lot of artists have done. Razul. But to be taken seriously in one field coming from another field, a lot of times you feel like your professional background is a liability. It's like, oh, they can tell I'm an animator here. I'm making it too cartoony or this and this. You think of it as a liability. I think in reality, it's an advantage, because there's something about each of these design styles that is appealing, and that thing, you can take it and you can put it on this, and this thing will be better. But you have to have that confidence to do it. And so I hope you continue to go down that path. I think it's going to continue to pay off.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I agree with all of that.
Awesome work. So beautiful. So charming.
Wow.
Whoa. Bum, bum, bum. I don't know. Wow, dude. Sort of strong work to begin with, right? Hard to imagine that you didn't study Vilpu before doing that work on the left, or maybe you learned from a teacher who studied from Vilpu. But I can see my I don't want to say my master. Sounds culty enough, but my mentor. I can see him in that work. However you arrived at it, but work on the right, that looks like mature Vilpu in terms of the application. And obviously, I'm not saying it's there, maybe you got another, few decades to go. But there is some really advanced, really subtle stuff going on in that pose on the right. The pose on the left, if I saw that on, the Drawbox channel under figure drawing, I'd be like, whoa. The one on the right, I'm not expecting to see that from anybody online that I don't already know. That's real advanced. Obviously it's very close to your Vilppuian source, and you're going to need to continue to explore how that, converges with your own path. But you're definitely able to learn and absorb methods, techniques, and even aesthetics, and then reproduce them. That's a really good skill to have. You can always go into forgery. No, I'm just kidding. That's what that was a compliment Glenn gave to me when I was a student of his. He said he asked me to do a master study of his drawing from the original. I did it, and then his compliment, which I think was a compliment, is you could go into the forging business if you wanted to. And that's not a common skill. I think there are some artists. I think Una has it. I've seen a few artists, but I have to say that's pretty rare that somebody can really absorb the essence of a technique and be able to use it. That gives you a lot of flexibility. So I'm really interested to see where you take that.
Awesome. I see Sia is in the chat as well, and it's just writing in that they've been taking all of Glenn's classes. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Smart. Vilppu Academy. If you guys are impressed by this, New Masters Academy, obviously, but also Vilppu Academy. If this is something that appeals to you.
Yeah, I mean the figure, but I mean beautiful sensitivity in the face.
The face.
Yeah.
Oh God, look at that. That face is wow. That's a wow face.
Really expressive.
Yeah, and you just have that kind of sense more of the personality here, kind of like leaning forward. There's a real emotion in this one, a heaviness there. It's really beautifully done.
There's a subtlety too that's not Vilppuian, in that expression. Glenn tends to, you know what I mean? He's always, but just, the way you're sort of slowing down and modeling that form, damn, really beautifully done.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Keep it up. Yeah, focus on anatomy. You're definitely ready if you haven't already gotten into it. Take Ray Bustos' course. Focus on hands. Focus on feet. Learn what the anatomy is and how that actually creates these containers, these Vilppuian containers that you're using. Learn the real anatomy that goes underneath it with Ray. If you haven't already, I've done some of this, but I would like to see more anatomically informed content. That's how you would take this further, because you're doing so much with the drawing technique. You're doing so much with the feeling. There's so much that's working, but let's turn a cylinder into a leg. You know what I mean? Let's start to really focus on that pattern. Look at the Albanese plates by Jan Vandelaar and copy. Get those patterns, those explicit patterns. Start to let that inform your drawing, because that's something that you can't get from studying Glenn. Is all his time in front of the figure and all his time studying anatomy. That can't be transmitted to you as easily. So you can learn so much about the technique, but there's also all that anatomy and all that study that's informing what he's doing. I think I would like to see more of specifically the anatomy from you in the future. And I think the best anatomy course in the world is Ray's, so I would definitely get into that. And we got an anatomy workshop in November, so if you want to come and join me and Glenn and Ray Bustos, if you want to study with all these people, I'm just injecting myself into the equation, but if you want to study, that could be a really great thing for you.
Awesome. Svetlana.
Oh.
Wow, these are both beautiful. My goodness.
Oh. Woo! You want to start us off, Peter?
I mean, handling of medium in both is just incredible.
Yep.
I think the way that it's drawn so well, but I think what I love so much about the one on the right, the watercolor, is the attention to focusing detail in on specific areas and then losing some of that, which is really hard to do in watercolor. The way that the foliage is simplified is beautiful. I love the harmony that you have in the colors, even though it's very soft. I don't know, but even the first one is beautiful too.
It's definitely advanced work coming in wherever you were coming from, or if you were here for this. I think the first one is such a feast for the eyes, literally, like you want to just reach out and nom, 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 all that delicious looking food. But it's also, in the same way, it's also photographic and feeling a little bit. Like it does feel like work from a photo, which is so hard to shake. Whereas the one on the right feels more to me like a work of art, like a painting, even though there's all that juicy stuff on the left. But what I like about the right is such a clear compositional structure, simple structure. You know, you've got this, you've got this, you've got, it's not a complex structure necessarily, but it's just so carefully and tastefully executed. Whereas, so that's an interesting change between this sort of sensual, vivacious, explosion of, it's like it's like, I feel drunk when I look at the one on the left or high. I can imagine what those things feel like, of course. I've experienced that. And then on the right has like a quiet sort of a precision, and it's more constructed. So I would like to see both of these feelings continue to mingle. Like what happens if it's structural and measured and feels true to life outside, not true to a photograph. It's different. And then the one on the left is just so sculptural, and I would love to see how those can continue to. You got Dionysian and Apollonian, if I've ever seen it, and really great work in both.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like the second one, we've got such a nice atmosphere of what the conditions are on that day. You kind of really feel the sense of place. But I would be nice to then see a little bit more movement and kind of loosening up on some of those aspects of it as well. But I do really like the colour palette that you've chosen with this. I think it works really well. And I'm quite enjoying the trees as they move into the background and the kind of little subtle marks that are in them and the kind of fuzziness as it's lost into that really, really pale sky. I think it's just such a nice elegance to your composition. And it's lovely having those quiet bits that kind of move your eye round about everything. It's really well controlled.
And also Iliya was going after that effect that you're using on the left one with the outline, with the edge. But I think this is another example of it being done well. Like I really feel like you're thinking about the surface of that, you're feeling it and then you're pushing it back in. That's different than just going, woo, this is what Richard Schmidt did in a book that I bought. It's much more, it's got intent. I like it. It's a good use of a simple trick. It's a great use of a cheap trick. I think it's successful.
Awesome. 45 out of 50. We have 5 left, guys.
Yeah.
Tay fun.
Yeah.
So much more solid in every way.
Mm. Yeah, and he's been working really hard. I mean, he's done he did Beginner's Guide to Drawing, but he's gone back and he's done Drawing Foundations 1 because he felt like he still had more to learn from Beginner's Guide to Drawing. So, yeah. And I think that's really paying off for him in terms of his understanding of how to measure, how to model, how to observe. So I think it's like those kind of skills that he's going to be able to then use in other things. But definitely, he's a student that kind of recognizes the value in revisiting things because he feels like he hasn't quite grasped every concept that there is to get there.
Yeah, the one on the left, you could tell by the way the lines are working and of the legs. Just look at the leg, for example. You can tell this is a student who has not yet made the breakthrough of truly understanding that the 2D lines in representation, in illusionary representation, that the 2D lines are actually there to describe a real volume. It doesn't look like, because that's a step that's a milestone you have to hit. At first, you think you're doing it in 3D, but it's flat. You think you're not copying, but you are. There's that, and then so these levels keep going up. I think you're at the level where you're getting very close to realizing that it's not just a yin-yang symbol, shadow, light, and 2 lines. It's a leg. It's a thigh. It's real human flesh, and it's alive. But on the right, even though this is not the figure, I'm seeing with the seltzer can or whatever that is, I'm seeing that, okay, this person is understanding that lines are just there to help us represent the forms. Not only, obviously, but that's their purpose in terms of the spatial illusion. The decorative purpose of line is different. but in terms of what the lines are supposed to be representing, I feel like the one on the right seems like you understand that better. I mean, maybe the rendering in the bottle, the way is a little on the copied side, still a little flat. There's a little, but you know, the screwdriver looks like it's been bent. There's a few, I mean, I can get nitpicky, but overall, like these are 3D. These are 3D, and I can tell that you're thinking of them in 3D. The one on the left, I can't. So that's just such a huge breakthrough. Whichever one, I mean, that I have to acknowledge that. Like that's very difficult milestone to reach.
Yeah, absolutely. Teresa?
It's just great work. This is a kind of painting style that I see in Polish watercolorists, and then it's still done in a few places, but in England in particular, I think the English are good at this. I'm sure other countries in the area. So this is the style of drawing where you're using a graphite line. It's sort of like rendering in pen and ink, that famous manual, which is probably the best book on inking ever created, was that book, Watson Guptill. It's that sort of era of drawing, which is a very technically difficult type of drawing to do, because you have to you're basically doing like mini little perspective drawings and illustrations that have all this cool stuff happening, and then you have to like carefully control the watercolor. So just the fact that you're even able to do this technique where you're keeping it so controlled I think is really technically impressive. I think it shows that you've got a lot of ambition and a lot of time spent on it. But let's forget about the fact of just not ruining the painting with watercolor. Let's put that aside. And to be able to do these delicate effects, the drawing is so good, and the design is really nice, and I can see that a good compositional sense. And I would love to see if the skill keeps increasing from here, it's going to get really exciting, because it's already so intriguing.
Yeah, and I think the thing that strikes me is the kind of artist, like arranging that picture space really beautifully, especially in the second image where you've got the kind of hauntingly there but not quite there background that kind of just pulls your eye in, and the beautiful framing devices, and really, really lovely use of all the different shades of green, which can be really difficult to handle. So yeah, beautiful work.
Yeah, it's more ambitious. It'd be really interesting to see how far you decide to push this in future.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep it up. Great job.
Tom.
Whoa. It's like an evolution of, it's like the addition of the third dimension. You know what I mean?
It doesn't even look like it's that long ago. That looks like, is that 22?
No. Yeah, it's interesting. It's got the same aesthetics, you can see, even though it's more rendered out. The way he's dealing with shape, like it's got a feeling to it, which I actually find appealing. It's quirky for sure. It's a quirky kind of a vibe, but it's like, I don't know. I kind of like the way it feels. I like the clarity of decisions. I like that he's not fussing around and not committing to an edge. He's like, the nose is right here and the brow is right there. And I like the starkness of it, because I feel like so many people are hiding from making those decisions. So they're using all these effects. Maybe this is getting back to what Iliya was talking about, but they use all these effects in cool techniques. And if I turn my brush sideways, and they learn these ways to create these effects, but they don't have to get nailed down on exactly where the specificity is of it. And so they don't have to engage with a certain form of the design, which is a linear, in this case, it's a linear design. All drawing and painting is based on line. So I like that there's this boldness of line, that even though it looks like, okay, we're getting more 3D, we're getting more maybe naturalistic, maybe more in the academic sort of tradition in terms of like the approach we're learning and we're using, but still not becoming timid. There's still this, like, even though things are not always in the right place, is anything ever in the right place for any of us? But at the same time, I like that you're sticking to you have that personality that's not being stripped out of you by the curriculum, staying there, staying intact.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is an artist who probably wants to push those elements of design more in their work, and maybe beginning to look at sculpture and kind of like maybe trying to kind of like work with the kind of clay and kind of like carve out some shapes and see how they explore that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. This person would
And just speaking of like design, I mean, look at the way the hair is handled in the first one, and then look at the way it's handled in the second one. These clumps of hair are all designed. I mean, it looks like a forest from like a Tim Burton film.
Yeah. Brambles that from the Song of the South.
Just the amount of personality that infuses into this work, it's just leagues ahead.
Yeah, keep it up. Great job, Tom.
Undragon color AO.
So much to look at. The format is, though, that because I didn't actually catch the prompt, I didn't know it was going to be on camera, but the format was that there's earlier work and there's more recent work, or is both from any time period?
Early
on the left.
Yeah.
Okay, because the one thing is on the left, you have to look really carefully to see it because it's so light, and the one on the right is so immediately a different medium, obviously, but that is one thing that I think it looks to me like an improvement, is that the artist on the right is taking the time to make sure that it reads, and the artist on the left is exploring and then sort of giving up and taking a photo, like they've taken it as far as and they took a photo. The one on the right is more like, okay, I need to commit. So that's an interesting difference. And I think that I like the gesture I actually probably like the drawing on the left better in terms of the design and just the content, whatever. I like the drawing on the left better than the one on the right, but I like the clarity of the one on the right. And I would love to see that continue to evolve. Really nice, really imaginative, compelling.
Yeah, and I think with an artist like that, there's probably, I don't know, maybe thousands of bits of paper that look a little bit like this, where all these kind of like ideas will be kind of like beginning to happen. And I think it's important to allow yourself to kind of just, play about with your imagination and your ideas and explore what possible creatures, what possible worlds you can create.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, second to last, Virginia.
Whoa.
Big difference.
And
Big
again,
difference.
not that long a time. Again, that's 2022, so a little bit more than a year.
Yeah. I think on the left, what it looks like, this looks like a lot of artists who, a lot of artists' work that I see at a certain stage of their, process, or maybe, if they've done it a long time, but there is sort of a kind of a going for the line of everything but treating it as like a linear pattern that you're just trying to grab out of the photograph. Like you're like, what's the line of that? And you're trying to grab it, but because it's not as constructed, or it's not as designed three-dimensionally, these are like little islands of parts. And so you have an island, more like a glacier, because this thing is it's moving in the water. So that's what happens. That's the problem, is that you might get a really nice pattern, like the eye might overlap beautifully, but it's like boink, and the other one's like whack, and the other one's like boop. So that's the issue. What I see on the right is that it seems like that's been acknowledged. And so now it still has the same kind of a target in a way, but it's more designed. It's more like built on a egg. It's a little more solid, and it just seems like you're just so much more. You're like 3 times the artist you were. Like this artist is taking a clear step forward, and your design language is starting to manifest too, like the textural differences and how you're handling the pattern, the sort of graphic nature of the pattern versus it's almost like a fetch-in, but really a Holbein. It's really Holbein did it first, but those different zones of tone and texture, and that those are playing against each other in a contemporary way, but you're doing it kind of in good taste, which is much harder than just doing it anyway. So I'm excited to see. You want more gesture, more construction, more imagination drawing. That's going to keep upgrading it. But I like your taste too, and as well.
Yeah, and again, just I mean, if it was even just one head, it would be an impressive improvement. But to then be doing the multi-figure composition with the pattern as well, and it's about these students who make so much progress, having so much ambition, and I think pushing themselves, taking themselves you know, further,
Fast.
you know, and yeah, but I think, you know, it is about going from the difference of like, you know, the first pictures, like they're trying to solve every single problem about portrait drawing in that picture, and they don't know how to work it all out. And whereas in the second picture, you can see that they've got knowledge that they can begin to hang the drawing on, and it just makes it so much stronger. And you can really just,
They
yeah,
choose their
you
battles.
can see
Yeah.
that they're beginning to conquer, you know, and get the idea of portraiture. And it'll be really interesting to see them in 2024 and see what the next one
Wow.
looks like. And I mean, we should do this next year
Yeah.
and see,
Totally.
Yeah,
what
really.
these students,
I would love to see
Yeah,
these
see-
evolve. Yeah,
see
I would
where
love to
these
see these
students-
evolve for year to year.
yeah,
That'd be so
to
much
see where
fun.
these students end up in a year's time, because I think there's going to be so much progress to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to highlight just a comment here from Liz that the first one is only from 2022, and that's a serious amount of progress in such a short
Yeah.
time period. I mean, that is just
Oh my God.
worthy of
I mean,
yeah,
dude.
a lot of praise.
The left one has teeth. The one on the right has
Yeah.
a smile in it. Like that's a
Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah,
And I think that just goes to show,
And
you
two
know,
other expressions.
it just goes to show how much you can learn and develop, and you
Yeah.
know, when you want to and
Yeah.
push yourself, and you've got good teaching, you can really take
Yeah.
any level at the beginning and get different
Yeah.
places.
And you'll improve no matter what, just by putting
Yeah.
the work in. You're going to improve even if you're on a desert island and you're, you know, painting your face of Wilson on the ball. Even in that, you will get better. It's like you go to the doctor, your body's trying to heal naturally, and then in addition, there's this. That's how training is. So like all of these artists, like New Masters Academy, could not take credit for any of these artists' work, even if they only studied with us, and they didn't do any personal. They just did NMA assignments. So at the end of the day, it's all of you. You're the ones doing the work, but you know, just like if you were trying to learn anything, let's say you're trying to build an airplane that flies, you need to coordinate with the rest of the community and the wisdom and the knowledge and all of that. You shouldn't just go out there and start stretching canvas and then start jumping off of a farm building. So I just want to acknowledge that, even though obviously this is the spirit of this is showcasing the students' work, building up the community, featuring all the talent and creativity that is so clearly on the community and not getting the attention that it deserves, just all the amazing artistic stuff that's going on here. In addition to all of that, you know, it's important to keep in mind that you have to be doing the work and making these breakthroughs yourself in this community and the subscription service and the 4-year plan and the events, everything we're about when it comes to the training. It's all just about making it a bit easier for you to make those connections and keep going. So it's all on you, and you can see it with these artists. You know, you can see the ones who are just like, not today, and then you know, a year later, versus, you know, you can see it, and that's what we all need to. That's the real inspiration. We all need to be like this. Sorry for that tangent.
no, awesome, super inspirational. Yeah, this whole thing is inspirational. I love this whole page. So awesome, Virginia.
Yeah.
And last but
Thank you.
certainly not least, Wiggly Line, Alex.
Wow.
Yes, Wiggly.
Wow.
And I'm sure Wiggly's
That's
still up.
so
Wiggly
funny.
never sleeps, so you know she must be here.
Wiggly's-
Can I just say I love that you drew the
Yeah.
same image again? I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wow. You can just feel the solidity of the one versus the other. You can feel the confidence and you know what I mean? Like big difference. This looks like more like somebody it seems like there's a professional gap. The person on the left seems like they want to do comics someday. The person on the right might do comics, or maybe they're new to it, or there's a level of professionalism that you can just see, and that just comes down to just knowing the craft, just knowing how these things are built, and getting better at reinterpreting, and getting better at the mechanics of it, and getting better at the thinking. You're thinking like Bill Perkins. It's a composition. You're thinking like Glenn Vilppu. It's got to move. You're thinking dynamic sketching. It's got to be solid, and all that is just sort of like fudge on the sundae, and it's just making it. So
Yeah, and I
yummy.
think with this one, like with the the second one, you're really feeling the weight of each of the characters pushing against each other. You can kind of feel that hug a lot more than you can in the first one. And I think also the little kind of subtle changes she's made in terms of the kind of like head size and just bringing out those kind of eyes that little bit more, it just sells the story and it kind of like pulls you in and actually makes you feel more involved and connected with what's happening in the image.
Yeah, it's not necessarily more rendered, but it's more spatial. It's not about rendering. People think, oh, do I like cartoony styles or do I like realistic styles? That's how they think about it. And what's the difference? The difference is how long I do this. That's not what it is. There's a competence. There's an actual skill to it. It's not all about style. It's not all about your taste. It's not all about your personality. Some of it is literally just competence. Like, I'm a carpenter, but I make straight cuts. I'm a carpenter, but my shit doesn't fall down. I'm a better carpenter. And we've been, especially Iliya loves to do this, but we've been focusing so much on I think the creativity and the unique elements of each of these works. We gotta be honest though. Just learn to draw better here, and your drawings will look better out there. Like, and I see that in all of this work, but especially Wiggly. This is just such a subtle craft. This is an essay on craft, and I would love to see what the next essay on the same drawing is going to look like.
Yeah. Draw.
Yeah. And don't waste
time. And I think it's those little decisions as well that Wiggly's made about where she has put tone, and also, Liz is talking about the shapes being more sophisticated. That shape design of the hair coming down at the side is just so elegant and refined and precise and deliberate. And I can see that, Wiggly's, she's working those lines. She sure is.
Yeah. And you know what? The best shapes are the ones that are going to represent the more masterful understanding of the spatial relationships. I have to say, good shape isn't just having a really wild triangle. That's not the only way that you can design shapes. Really, it's the shapes. The closer the tip of the head is to an egg rather than just a shape with a mouth floating on it, the more it's really considered as an egg. Look at Totoro. Simple character, turn it around in 3D, you'll find it's solid, and that's why it moves right, and that's why it's so mysteriously compelling. You're like, the Totoro is so simple, so why do I love it so much? Well, part of it is that thing is spatial, baby, and that brings another level to comics, to manga. It will make your manga better, more. And I'm not saying put everything in a box necessarily, but I am saying start thinking about those surfaces and know that the line is not just a line. It's you thinking of it and tracking your pencil over this imaginary 3D space and up and over the side, and really, really thinking like a master. That's what will improve your comics. So.
Great.
Yeah, that's a really lovely comment from Virginia in the comments. She's saying, thank you for the comments. This is the first time I've showed my artwork, and what a privilege it is for us to, well done. Really brave as well. So thank you for sharing your artwork with us, and well done on that amazing progress.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, that brings us to the end. I said before we started that we would get through everything in an hour, so that's famous.
It wasn't an hour. It just wasn't the hour we thought it would be.
Yeah, it ended during.
Yeah.
I don't even want to know what the hour in the UK is, Marian.
Is 1 o'clock in the morning. I've only been up since 5. It's not a long day.
I just want to say thank you very much to everybody here who's sacrificing their sleep. In so doing, allowing the effects of time to ravage their DNA without the healing, repairing power of sleep, aging them so quickly and bringing them one step closer to the grave, all to inspire you. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been, and also throughout the entire 10-year thing, this is it should be illegal how much work this has been, but it's not, because this has been so amazing. The team is just fantastic. And this idea of actually hiring from the community, it's relatively new, but I'm about that life, because everybody seems to get what we're all about here and really understand that we are just trying to improve the quality of the artwork and making it more possible for people to transform their lives, through craft and humility and skill and the tradition that's handed down. And it's all just so pure. And I love that. everybody on the team, Peter, Marian, every single person. I don't want to start naming everybody because I'm sure I'll leave somebody out, but everyone that's really come together to make this possible. You know, even as far as like this whole Discord community, it was Eden's idea. You know, we moving the Discord from a really like lopsided, dysfunctional kind of a format to the more exciting, elegant format we see. That was Alicia and Manny and Seth, who without, and you know what I mean? That was just, it was me and Alicia staying up all night trying to get the thing working.
Yeah, was that not New Year's Eve?
It was so strange how the community just sort of, I feel like New Masters is a studio and there's marble floors and there's all these steps and it's in this place you can't reach. And then all of these branches and plants are breaking through the damn expensive floor that we have. And that's like the community, but now it's like becoming this jungle. So this is not the company that I set out to create. This is so much more. And I think the smartest thing we can do is just continue to listen to you guys because you really know what you want and what an amazing community can be. So thank you so much for the NMA community. And as long as you guys are trusting us and coming here and trusting us to educate you and make the best possible art education that anybody can have, as long as you keep entrusting us with that, we're going to keep investing in that and trying to do that better and try to take things to the next level. And the first 10 years is just us getting started. I feel like there's so much more exciting things to come. So thank you to all the students here. And if you like this kind of event, I love putting the spotlight on you guys for a change. I love it. On so many levels, I love this. So if this is the kind of thing you want to see more of, please let us know. Or if you're not into it and you're like, damn it, stop pinging me on Discord. I just want to use the videos and I don't want to know any of you. Let us know that too. But however you're feeling about it, thanks so much to everybody involved and all of the students who are making such unbelievable progress. It's really inspiring for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Joshua. None of this we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So, I mean,
yeah.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a blast, haven't we, Peter, over the last few days?
We have. Yeah. We can go and sleep for a couple of weeks. But it's been an absolute blast.
I'm so sad about the fashion recording. I don't think they have the audio.
No, unfortunately not. But that was so fun. Really.
Do you know what that means? That means that next time is going to be the first time it's like recorded, so it's like real. So if we do it again, now we know to pull. You pull out
exactly. It's one of those things that if you guys were there, then you were there. You were at the event. You had to be there.
Dude.
And if you missed out, then we'll just have to do it again.
Yeah. I don't think we can lip sync to it, Peter. There was just too much.
Let's just Foley the whole thing.
Yeah, it was.
Hold on, Peter's copy.
Yeah.
It was something.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Let's wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for sharing all that wonderful work tonight.
And there will be a gallery, right, where everybody can
They
appreciate this.
And I
think we're going to share it on social media.
The gallery's even more involved with biographies and further examples of work. So, you can look at some of those artists that you're intrigued by and find out more about their personal story and see more of their own artwork. So it's definitely worth a look to kind of get.
If you're a collector or a gallerist and you're smart, I think you should pay attention to these students because I think there's a lot of talent here. Don't wait for them to blow up on Instagram and hardball you. What happens if Rob stays at prom? Thank God. I don't want me dancing on YouTube for all the time. I sabotaged it. It was me. It was me.
No, it was great. It was really great. Well, he's gone.
He's gone. Okay,
and I think it's probably time for us to go as well.
Us to go. Yeah. Oh, now he's come back.
He's reconnecting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you know what? Let's wrap this up. Thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate all of your time and amazing work. And take care. Bye.